The modern imagination often paints the medieval period as a dark era of unwashed filth, where personal care was completely alien to the human experience. While it is true that the standards of cleanliness differed vastly from our sterilized present, the reality is a complex tapestry of struggle, ingenuity, and biological hazard. The people of the Middle Ages were not indifferent to dirt, but they fought a constant and often losing battle against it with the limited tools at their disposal. To understand their daily reality, one must first strip away the modern luxury of plumbing and the instant availability of hot water. The morning routine of a medieval citizen does not begin with a shower, but with the splashing of cold water from a basin onto the face and hands. The concept of submerging the entire body in water on a daily basis is considered unnecessary, and, by some medical authorities of the time, even dangerous. Instead of scrubbing the skin, the aristocracy and the rising merchant class rely on the purifying power of fresh white linen. It is a widespread belief that high-quality linen acts as a sponge that draws the sweat and impurities out of the pores and cleanses the body without the need for water. A nobleman might change his linen undershirt several times a day to maintain a facade of cleanliness and to mask the natural musk of the human form. The most shocking aspect for a time traveler would undoubtedly be the sanitary facilities, or rather the lack thereof. In a grand castle, the toilet is known as a garderobe, a simple stone seat with a hole that protrudes from the castle wall over the moat, or a cesspit below. Gravity is the only flushing mechanism, and in the summer months, the stench rising from the base of the walls is enough to make the eyes water. Clothes are often hung in these small latrine chambers because the pungent ammonia fumes from the human waste are believed to kill fleas and moths in the fabric. For the common people living in crowded cities, the situation is far more dire and logistically challenging. They rely on communal latrines or simple buckets that are emptied into the gutters of the street or into fast-filling backyard pits. The job of emptying these pits belongs to the gong farmers, men who work only at night to spare the city the sight and smell of their labor. They descend into the suffocating darkness of the cesspits, sometimes waist-deep in human excrement, to shovel out the waste of the city. It is a dangerous profession, as the fumes alone can be lethal in enclosed spaces. Yet they are the unsung heroes keeping the urban centers from drowning in filth. The question of what was used before the invention of toilet paper reveals a harsh and abrasive reality. The wealthy might use wool or pieces of linen, but the vast majority of the population turns to nature for assistance. Moss, leaves, hay, and straw are the standard materials used for wiping, which offers a cleaning experience that is both scratching and hygienically questionable. In ancient times, the Romans used a sponge on a stick soaked in vinegar, but this technology was largely lost or abandoned in favor of these more primitive methods. The lack of proper sanitation leads to a constant cycle of reinfection with intestinal parasites, which are a normal part of the human condition in this era. Almost every adult carries worms, a silent passenger that consumes a portion of the hard-earned caloric intake. Despite the aversion to water in some circles, the public bathhouse, or stew, remains a popular institution in many European cities until the late Middle Ages. These are places of socializing, business, and physical pleasure, where men and women bathe in large wooden tubs filled with steaming water. However, the Church views these establishments with deep suspicion, seeing them not as places of hygiene, but as dens of vice and immorality. The decline of the bathhouse is accelerated by the arrival of the Black Death in 1348. Physicians of the time propagate the fatal theory that hot water opens the pores of the skin and allows the pestilential miasma to enter the body. As a result, a layer of grime is suddenly seen as a protective shield against the plague, sealing the body off from the deadly air. This medical misconception sets the standard of hygiene back by centuries and leads to an era where monarchs boast of only bathing twice in their entire lives. Instead of washing, the elite turned to heavy perfumes, powders, and pomanders to mask the odors of the unwashed body. Musk, rosewater, and spices are applied liberally, creating a cloying scent that mixes with the underlying smell of sweat and stale clothes. Dental hygiene is another chapter of horror, dominated by superstition and painful remedies. The common belief is that toothache is caused by a toothworm that gnaws at the inside of the tooth and must be driven out. Treatments range from inhaling the smoke of burning henbane seeds to applying searing hot irons to the gum to kill the nerve. To clean their teeth, people rub them with rough linen cloths, dipped in mixtures of ground herbs, salt, or even crushed bone. Some aristocrats use pastes made of vinegar and honey, unknowingly accelerating the decay they are trying to prevent. A smile revealing a full set of white teeth is a rarity, and rotten teeth are often simply pulled out by the local barber surgeon without anesthesia. The floor of a medieval house is another battlefield in the war against dirt and vermin. In many homes, the floor is covered with rushes, a layer of dried grasses and herbs intended to provide insulation and absorb spills. While the top layer might be refreshed, the bottom layers are often left to rot for years, becoming a breeding ground for beetles and bacteria. Rasmus of Rotterdam, a scholar of the 16th century, famously complains that these floors harbor expectoration, vomit, the leakage of dogs and other filth that is unmentionable. The concept of microscopic germs is unknown, so cleanliness is judged solely by what can be seen and smelled. If a room looks tidy and smells of lavender, it is considered clean, regardless of the invisible pathogens lurking on every surface. Lice and fleas are not considered a sign of poverty, but an unavoidable nuisance that afflicts the king on his throne as well as the peasant in the field. Elaborate ivory combs are used to remove lice from hair and wigs, while flea traps containing sticky resins are worn inside the clothing. The itching is a constant companion, a physical reminder of the shared vulnerability of the human body. Hand washing, however, is one ritual that is taken surprisingly seriously, especially before meals. Since forks are not yet in common use and people eat with their fingers, the washing of hands is a necessary ceremony. Servants pour water from aquamaniles, often shaped like lions or dragons, over the hands of the guests before they touch the communal platters. This ritual is one of the few effective barriers against the spread of disease, although the water itself is rarely sterilized. The soap used is a harsh substance made from animal fat and wood ash, effective at removing grease but damaging to the skin. It is primarily used for laundry rather than for the body, as soft, scented soaps are a luxury import from the East. In the streets, the battle against waste is fought with strict laws that are frequently ignored by the populace. Muckrakers are employed to clear the streets of debris, but the sheer volume of waste produced by humans and animals is overwhelming. Pigs roam freely in many towns, acting as living garbage disposals that eat the refuse thrown into the streets. While this solves the problem of food waste, it adds to the filth as the animals leave their own droppings behind. The smell of a medieval city is described by travelers as a physical blow that can be detected from miles away. Tanners use urine and dog feces to cure leather, adding sharp chemical notes to the already potent atmospheric cocktail. Despite these horrific conditions, it is important to recognize the resilience and adaptability of the medieval adult. Their immune systems are forged in a fire of constant exposure, capable of withstanding bacterial loads that would hospitalize a modern human. They possess a knowledge of herbal medicine and natural disinfectants like vinegar and alcohol, that helps them survive in a hostile world. They are not dirty by choice, but are constrained by the technological and scientific limits of their time. The struggle for hygiene is a testament to their desire for dignity and order amidst the chaos of nature. When we look back at the Middle Ages, we should not just see the filth, but the immense effort it took to carve out a civilization without the tools we take for granted. No toilet paper and no showers did not mean a lack of pride or a lack of trying. It meant living in a world where survival was the priority, and where cleanliness was a luxury bought with hard labor. The history of hygiene is the history of our battle against our own biology, a battle that was fought with desperate intensity in the shadow of the cathedral.